Yeah, it's all popping off here, by the way, in Doha. We got fireworks and
Let's
music,
go.
and hopefully it's soothing sounds for everybody while they're listening. But what I would add is just maybe some overall themes to what we're seeing with the Dutch. I don't think they've actually gotten out of second gear, to be honest. In terms, a little bit, I understand what you're saying, Charlie, but they still finished on top with 7. They have that experience of knowing how to get through a group, and I still don't think we've seen the best of them, which gives me
Is that a good thing for us, Jimmy, or is that a bad thing?
Well, I don't know.
Because if they can't get out of that gear and no one's really punished them for that, or are you suggesting that they've been able to get this many points while learning along the way and they can shift into another gear?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting is that the first 2 games, they didn't have Memphis Depay start. And so Cody Gakpo was the one that started up top essentially by himself, and he scored in both games. And then Memphis Depay does start, and he still finds a way to score a goal. So that relationship, I think, between Depay and Gakpo is interesting, because if you didn't have Depay in, maybe you could find that strength and maybe overload the midfield. So there's that. But let's take a look. Let's take one step back. Louis van Gaal took over at almost a little over a year ago, and they haven't lost. It's a run of 18 games. They haven't lost. And what he's done is he's gone against the DNA of, and this is getting really loud, I apologize, but he's gone against the DNA of the Dutch, which is a 4-3-3 system. Johan Cruyff, Ajax, all that stuff. It's 4-3-3. That's what they know. And he's gone to a back 3 with 2 wing backs. And it's actually done and given them a lot of success. And I wonder about that, because that back line is pretty solid when you have Virgil van Dijk anchoring it. And then when you look at the last time that Van Gaal actually managed, this is his 3rd time in charge of the Dutch. Last time he was in charge, they finished 3rd in the World Cup. So he's got experience, obviously, and he knows what he's doing. And that gives me all that kind of wrapped together based on how they're performing, that they haven't gotten out of second gear, that maybe they haven't found their best 11 yet. I mean, I love it for us as a challenge, of course, but I just think it's going to be our most tough test so far in this tournament.
I mean, Charlie, based on what you've seen from the Netherlands, and we'll break down this preview more so, and we'll get into the U.S. lineups and things like that. We know we have a short amount of time with Jimmy today, but is there anything about this Netherlands that you fear in terms of the potential upside? Because, again, when I watch them in those games, I agree with Jimmy that they haven't gotten out of that second gear, but they still finished 7 points on top of the table. So there's an effectiveness to the way that they're playing. But I wouldn't say that there's any sort of things where I'm saying, hey, this is going to be really hard to stop based on what I've seen so far in this tournament.
No, they have an effectiveness to finish their chances. And it's not that they're creating a great deal of chances either. It's quality chances. And you have a player in Cody Gakpo who is just in form. The player is on a rocket ship right now. And the Netherlands are behind him. They're looking to him to create those goals, to score those goals, to win these games. And they have pride in their defending. They think they can win games 1-0, 2-1, whatever it is, just because they will finish those quality chances. And great question from YouTube comments, Jeff Hamidi, who said, if Josh Sargent can't go, he calls him Josh Major, who is the 9 in this game? And that's an interesting question, because I think of the 2 players, I think Christian's more likely to be able to play from the start than Josh Sargent, because ankles are really difficult. When you get a good tweak, man, it's painful. So my idea, knowing that Timothy Weah is probably not going to be at the 9, I think Gregg has made that pretty clear, that you play a false 9 and Brenden Aaronson is your starting striker, because in possession, they are able to move, and depending on where the ball is, whether it's Timothy Weah playing up top in a 4-4-2 and Brennan's kind of withdrawn, and you know what you're going to get from him. Constant pressure, transition. That's where he's at his best. Look at how the way Philadelphia Union played, the way that Red Bull Salzburg played. That is going to play right into Brenden Aaronson's hands, something he's done his whole career. I like the fact of playing Josh Sargent in that role, and then hopefully you can get a Gio Reyna to come into the second half. Plus, he's motivated. He wants to impress. He's got to work hard off the ball, and I think that would really suit the U.S. well.
Jimmy, let me ask you this: Do you think?
Can I jump in on the number 9 though, Heath? Yeah. I just want to say that we have to think about it in terms of, can we cancel somebody out? I mean, in some ways, our number 9 might have to be a sacrificial lamb, right? They need to walk so others can run, because we need to occupy Virgil van Dijk. We need to maybe occupy 2 players with one of our own. So if we can get Nathan Ake and Virgil van Dijk to be locked in on one of our guys, that's going to open up space in different areas of the field. I don't know which player can do that. I feel like, obviously, Timo Weah is still my number 1 choice, because he's the one that will hopefully stretch to the defense. Haji Wright, I've seen enough of Haji Wright that I want to see somebody else. So if it's Jesus Ferreira, if Josh Sargent can't go, all right, what is he going to do? Is if you bring in a Ferreira or somebody like him, a false nine, then they have to bring a center back into midfield with them if they're going to drop back. And that'll open up space for Pulisic to run in behind, where that space is now being opened, or way on the other side. We need that, but there has to be some thought, and I hope that there is, and I'm sure that there is, around how we strategically move around and joystick these center backs, who are excellent center backs for the Dutch, because if we just allow them to stand in their block and stand in their line, it's going to be really difficult. We're not going to outhead these guys on crosses, right? We're running into a team that's got 3 trees. They're going to have guys that do the work. They're going to track. It's just going to be a really difficult game. And again, I'm up for the challenge, and I love that our guys are going to be tested in this way, especially when it's a win or go home, which is, I think, to your point, Heath, is going to force the Dutch to get out of second gear, because they couldn't. They won their first game in the group. Okay, they knew they had Qatar at some point. They were going to roll over Qatar, right? So they kind of knew when they won one, they were probably going to get 6 points, and they ended up getting 7. And I do think, to your point, Charlie, there were some vulnerabilities in that Dutch defense that we can get after, but this is going to be a different version of them. And we have to be really thoughtful. I don't want us to play checkers. We got to play chess with these guys.
But Jimmy, you knowing that Jesus is more of a 10, he's not really a striker, that he checks so deep. Wouldn't that play into the hands of a Brent Aronson or a Gio Reyna, knowing that you are constantly pressing, you're trying to overload the midfield, and then you force Van Dijk and Nathan Ake to come up. So then that space in behind is for your wingers, Christian Pulisic. And
1,000%. If we can get Brendan or Gio there, fine, no problem. I just think that Greg has been pretty adamant about, I brought my 3 strikers to play striker. I'm not going to put anybody else there. And he's staying true to that line as of now. But obviously you get into this position, you have some injuries, you got to think about how you want to really prepare your game plan on that side of the ball as we try to approach the attacking third. And honestly, we've done an excellent job. And I know that I've been kind of hit or miss on these podcasts, not being able to stay on long enough, or my service sucks here in Doha. But we've done an excellent job of getting numbers forward and committing numbers to the box. So it's not just we get it wide, there's one guy there and he's like 5'2", and we can't get anything on it. We're committing 3-4 guys on the box, or at least they're in and around the box. And I want that to continue, because that's going to put the Dutch under some pressure for sure.
Yeah, I think about that through the lens of how and where we're going to build up, right? Or where we're going to get our attack. If they are going to play in their 3-4-3, 3-5-2, if they're going to be spread out in this 3-4-3 system, they're going to be exposed in transition, which means we're probably going to have to accept that, right? Which means we need to play into that, as opposed to thinking that we're going to build out of the back every time we get the ball, or that the Dutch are just going to sit back and let us play through it or get up to the final third. And that's the part that I'm confused about in terms of, where is our pressing line going to be? How is it going to be effective? Are our attacks going to come from bad turnovers in transition? Because they don't give a lot of bad turnovers, right? Their vulnerabilities were actually just times that they were spread out, or times that they didn't defend sharply, but almost like they didn't have to. They didn't get punished for it. But I do think those chances are going to be there if they don't get out of that second gear. Charlie, do you think, game plan wise, for this U.S. side, that it is going to be about a transition game, that it's maybe trying to cough up turnovers high up the field? Or do you think we're going to sit back deeper and try to maybe transition with a little more space in behind them by sitting a little deeper? I mean, how do you think the U.S. is going to roll out in this one?
I certainly hope that it's not a team that's just going to sit back and defend. And I don't think we will. I think we're going to be bullish with our midfield. Adams, McKinney, and Musa have overrun every team that they've gone against, every midfield. And so you can't stop now. That's the strength of our team. So I think you put them under pressure. You don't allow them to build out of the back. You don't allow them to get comfortable and pin you back in your own half and allow Cody Gakpo to get on the ball, because that's when he shines. I think at the very minimum, you set up in a mid block and then you wait for that one pass that looks like you could pick it off. You lock down Frankie de Jong, you give him no space, force him to play backwards or play sideways, but you know you have those triggers. As soon as Timber touches the ball, that's when you press. You invite it, try and lock down Virgil van Dijk. Don't allow him to make the game. Force it to Timber, force it to their right, and then that's where you start to try and look for those pickoffs, the balls that are played across. But this is a team that has got to be good in transition, and I think that's where a lot of our guys excel. So,
I got to say, Jimmy, I know that you said you had 2 minutes left, and Charlie ate up those whole 2 minutes knowing that he's just going to kick you off the show and not give you another voice. But before you go, what you got any final thoughts for us? Because your hair looks good. The lighting's great for you tonight. I want you to have your moment on stage because you look
I appreciate
fantastic.
that. Yeah, I got it all figured out. I finally ticked all the boxes here in Doha. So long may this continue throughout the U.S.'s dream run here through the World Cup. For me, if we have enough guys that are playing 7 or 8 out of 10, we're going to be fine. I think we're going to do enough to get the result. I love what Charlie's saying about winning the midfield. We got to get around Frankie de Jong. He's got more forward dangerous passes than I think any other player, breaking the line passes than any other player in this tournament. And so, yeah, we start to win these individual battles. And then obviously collectively, we're continuing to be who we are in this tournament, which is difficult to beat. Then I like us to have a chance. And I think that's all we want. We want to go out there and think that we have a chance. And then we're going to put ourselves in a position to win the game. It's what we did against Iran, and I think we'll be looking to do the same. Now, whether you like Gregg Berhalter or not, I think he's gotten it right with the starting lineups. I think every first half that we've played, we've been the better team, and I don't think that's going to change. I feel like that's a trend that's been set for us as a group, and now it's just after halftime when other teams make adjustments, when maybe there's some subs, and we need to win that battle. And if we win the first half and we start to be a little bit smarter and efficient in how we're moving as a group and as the coaching decisions, we're going to put ourselves in a good position to win. And I know that Charlie thinks we match up well in terms of contrasting style with the Dutch. And I agree. If they want to slow it down and play methodically, we like to get out and run. If they want to get into a track meet, we're going to win that track meet. And I'm excited. I feel like we've seen a team now that can adapt to different situations. We can score through the middle. We can score out wide. We can create opportunities in different ways. So again, I don't know if I said this before, but maybe about off camera, but I'm cautiously optimistic that we can do the job. I'm really proud of the guys and what they've done so far. We're undefeated for a reason, and I think we're going to take it. It's going to be a really close one. I'm not going to give a score prediction because my heart always gets in the way. Okay, fine. We're going to win 7-0.